Welcome to Christine Friendly. In today's video, I'd like to teach you how to do the multiple choice question, which is also referred to as MCQs in the reading section of the IELTS. This question, MCQs, is supposed to be the most difficult question type in the reading section of the IELTS. So in today's video, I'm going to explain how to do this kind of question and show you what best strategies to use to tackle this kind of question. So let's get started without any further ado. Well, in this kind of question, there is one stem, which is either a short incomplete or a complete sentence, which is the main focus of the question, which is followed by four different options: A, B, C, and D. And candidates need to choose the correct option, one out of the four different options. The questions always follow the passage order, which means if the answer to the first question is in paragraph A, for example, the answers to the remaining questions will follow afterward. So that's great news. So once you are sure that you have found the answer to the first question in the passage, you don't need to read what has gone before that. You need to read afterward. And the best strategy to do this kind of question is to, first of all, read the stem and underline its keywords. And please don't read the options first. Read the stem and underline its keywords. For example, in this example, you can look at questions 27 to 32. So the question 27 has its keywords. The writer refers to visitors to New York to illustrate the point that the keywords are visitors to New York. So why does the writer refer to visitors to New York? The most effective strategy to do this kind of question is to find the wrong answers first. Eliminate the obviously wrong options first. Don't look for the correct answer first. First of all, cross out the options that you think are obviously wrong. But before that, you should read the text to scan these keywords. Once you've scanned the keywords, read that part carefully and come back to the options and first of all, eliminate or cross out the obviously wrong options. Before you do any passes, the first thing you should do is to read the title, the subtitle in the first few lines of the passage. Here, the title is "What is Exploration?" Let's read the first few lines to know what the text is about. We are all explorers. Yes, we are all explorers because we love to explore things, places. Our desire to discover and then share this newfound knowledge is part of what makes us human. Yeah, this passage talks about we human beings as essentially explorers. We love to explore new things and share our newly found knowledge. Indeed, this has played an important part in our success as a species. Long before the first caveman slumped down beside the fire and grunted news that there were plenty of wildebeest over yonder. So this passage talks about our history as cavemen, our ancestors who lived in the cave, and they explored new places and they sent news to others that there were a lot of wildebeest in the forest. Our ancestors had learned the value of sending out scouts to investigate the unknown. This questing nature of ours means our nature to explore undoubtedly helped our species spread around the globe, just as it nowadays no doubt helps the last nomadic Penan maintain their existence in the depleted forest of Borneo, and a visitor investigate the subways of New York. So here I find the keywords visitor negotiate the subways of New York. So visitor New York. So why does the writer mention that? Visitor New York. Let's eliminate the absolutely wrong answers first. Exploration is an intrinsic element of being human. Most people are enthusiastic about exploring. It doesn't say anything about most people, whether they are enthusiastic about exploring or not. Exploration can lead to surprising results. It doesn't talk about exploration leading to surprising results or not either. Most people find exploration daunting. They find exploration intimidating. No, not at all. So, exploration is an intrinsic element of being human. Yes, exploration is the most basic element of being human. Yeah, the main idea of this paragraph is the focus of the paragraph, let's say, is that exploration is characteristically a human nature, most characteristically a human nature. So the answer to question number 27 is A. Let's move on to the next question, 28. According to the second paragraph, what is the writer's view of explorers? So let's move on to paragraph 2. Over the years, we've come to think of explorers as a peculiar breed, different from the rest of us, different from those of us who are merely well traveled, even. And perhaps there is a type of person more suited to seeking out the new, a type of caveman more inclined to risk venturing out. That, however, doesn't take away from the fact that all have this inquiring instinct, even today, that in all sorts of professions, whether artist, marine biologist, or astronomer, borders of the unknown are being tested each day. So let's eliminate the wrong options first. Their discoveries have brought both benefits and disadvantages. The paragraph doesn't mention anything about the disadvantages and advantages of exploring. Their main value is in teaching others. It doesn't say anything about teaching others as well. They act on an urge that is common to everyone. The explorers act on an urge that is common to everyone. That maybe they tend to be more attractive to certain professions than to others. No, D is absolutely wrong. That's because explorers don't tend to be more attracted to certain professions than to others, because it says toward the last part of this second paragraph, it says that in all sorts of professions, whether artist, marine biologist, or astronomer, borders of the unknown are being tested each day. So they tend to be more attracted to certain professions than to others. Absolutely wrong, because they are equally attracted to all professions. So they act on an urge that is common to everyone. Why? Because let's look at the third last line. That, however, doesn't take away from the fact that we all have this inquiring instinct. Even today, we all have this inquiring instinct, which means they act on an urge that is common to everyone. So the answer to 28 is C. So let's move on to the description of Egdon Heath. So let's scan the text for these keywords. Okay, so let's look at the first line of the third paragraph. Thomas Hardy set some of his novels in Egdon Heath, a fictional area of uncultivated land, and used the landscape to suggest the desires and fears of his characters. He is delving into matters we all recognize because they are common to humanity. The writer refers to a description of Egdon Heath to suggest that Hardy was writing about his own experience of exploration. Okay, this is surely an act of exploration and into a world as remote as the author chooses. No, option A is wrong because Thomas Hardy was writing about his own experience of exploration. No, because the paragraph says He used the landscape to suggest the desires and fears of his characters, not his own. Option B. Hardy was mistaken about the nature of exploration. It doesn't say about anything about whether Hardy was mistaken about exploration or no. Hardy's aim was to investigate people's emotional states. Yes, this is absolutely right. That's because the paragraph says Thomas Hardy set some of his novels in Egdon Heath, a fictional area of uncultivated land, and used the landscape to suggest the desires and fears of his characters. Desires and fears of his characters means Hardy was his aim was to investigate people's emotional states, desires and fears, people's emotional states. Hardy's aim was to show the attraction of isolation. Let's check. Does he say anything about nature of isolation? Explorer and travel writer Peter Fleming talks of the moment when the explorer returns to the existence he has left behind with his loved ones. The traveler who has for weeks, months seen himself as a puny and irrelevant alien crawling laboriously over a country. No. So we found the answer, which is in the second line of the third paragraph. Use the landscape to suggest the desires and fears of his characters, which means his aim was to investigate people's emotional states. 31. In the fourth paragraph, the writer refers to a golden age to suggest that. So the keywords of question number 30 are a golden age, fourth paragraph. So I can find the keywords golden age, paragraph 4, line number third line onward. We think back to a golden age as if exploration peaked somehow in the 19th century, as if the process of discovery is now on the decline. Though the truth is that we have named only 1.5 million of this planet species, and there may be more than 10 million, and that's not including bacteria. We have studied only 5% of the species we know. We have scarcely mapped the ocean floors and know even less about ourselves. We fully understand the workings of only 10% of our brains. So, the amount of useful information produced by exploration has decreased. The writer says that we think back to a golden age as if exploration peaked somehow in the 19th century, as if the process of discovery is on the decline. Though the truth is that we have named only 1.5 million of these species. There may be more than 10 million. We have studied only 5% of the species we know. Okay, so the writer says that we still have got much more to explore. No, this is wrong answer. The amount of useful information produced by exploration has decreased. No, it's not decreased. Fewer people are interested in exploring than in the 19th century. No, it definitely says the 19th century. However, the exploration peaked as if exploration peaked somehow in the 19th century, as if the process of discovery is now on the decline, though the truth is always that we have named only 1.5 million of this planet species. The writer says that there's more to explore. Recent developments have made exploration less exciting. It doesn't say anything about whether recent developments have made exploration more or less exciting. We are wrong to think that exploration is no longer necessary. Absolutely right. We are wrong to think that exploration is no longer necessary because the writer says that there is still more to explore. The writer says that uh, we have named only 1.5 million of this planet species. There may be more than 10 million, which is yet to be explored. So the answer is D. 31. In the sixth paragraph, when discussing the definition of exploration, the writer argues that. So let's read paragraph 6, the definition of exploration. What does the writer say? Okay, each definition is slightly different and tends to reflect the field of endeavor of each pioneer. It was the same whoever I asked. The prominent historian would say exploration was a thing of the past. The cutting edge scientist would say it was of the present, and so on. They each set their own particular criteria. So they each had their own criteria to define exploration. The common factor in their approach being that they all had, unlike many of us who simply enjoy travel or discovering new things, both a very definite objective from the outset and also a desire to record their findings. Sorry. Uh, People tend to relate exploration to their own professional interest. Certain people are likely to misunderstand the nature of exploration. Sorry, this is wrong. The generally accepted definition has changed over time. Historians and scientists have more valid definition than the general public. No, the writer doesn't say anything about whether historians or scientists have more valid definitions. People tend to relate exploration to their own professional interest. Mhm. Yes, that may be. Certain people are likely to misunderstand the nature of exploration. It doesn't say anything about whether certain people are likely to understand or misunderstand the nature of exploration. So, options B and D are absolutely wrong. The generally accepted definition has changed over time. Okay, does it say that the general definition had changed over time? Its definition is slightly different, tends to reflect the field of endeavor of each pioneer. No, it hasn't changed over time. Instead, the answer people tend to relate exploration to their own professional interest is absolutely right. That's because the very first line says that each definition is slightly different and tends to reflect the field of endeavor of each pioneer, each professional. So the answer to 31 is A. So let's move on to question number 32. In the last paragraph, the writer explains that he is interested in. So the writer is interested in what? I'd best declare my own bias. As a writer, I'm interested in the exploration of ideas. I've done a great many expeditions and each one was unique. I've lived for months alone with isolated groups of people all around the world, even two uncontacted tribes. But none of these things is of the slightest interest to anyone unless through my books I found a new slant, explored a new idea. Okay, anyways, how someone's personality is reflected in their choice of places to visit? Wrong. The human ability to cast new light on places that may be familiar? Maybe. How travel writing has evolved to meet changing demands? No. The feelings that writers develop about the places that they explore? No. The answer A, C, D, absolutely wrong. So why B? The human ability to cast new light on places that may be familiar is the right answer. That's because the writer says, let's read the first few lines of the last paragraph. I'm interested in exploration of ideas. I've done a great many expeditions. Each one was unique. I've lived for months alone with isolated group of people. But none of these things is of the slightest interest to anyone unless through my books I found a new slant, explored new idea. Why? Because the world has moved on. The time has long passed for the great continental voyages, another walk to the poles, and another crossing of the empty quarter. We know how the land surface of our planet lies. Exploration is of Exploration of it is now down to the details, the habits of microbes, the grazing behavior of buffalo. Aside from the deep sea and deep underground, it is of the era of specialist. Okay. Anyways, and the last line, how a fresh interpretation of a well traveled route can give its reader new insights. There is the answer. The familiar place, the human ability to cast new light on places that may be familiar, to come up with new idea, to give readers new insights into the familiar places. Well traveled route, which is familiar place, okay, can give its readers new insights. So cast new light on places that may be familiar. So the answer to 32 is B. So we've come to the end of today's lesson, which is multiple choice question. And the questions always follow the passage order. And the best strategy to do this kind of question is to underline the keywords of each stem and scan them through the text, and don't read the options first. Instead, once you've scanned these keywords, read that part and eliminate the obviously wrong options first and choose the right option on the basis of what is said in the text. The answer is usually said given using the synonyms of the keywords given in the question. Thank you. I hope this information helps you to conquer this multiple choice question in the reading section of the IELTS.